Are you looking for an incredibly cheap way to light, heat, and cook during a power outage? Stay tuned. Hey Provident Preppers, I'm Jonathan.
And I'm Kylene, and I am so excited today because I was out doing some Christmas shopping and I found tea lights at Walmart. Normally I pay about $5 for this, and they were clearanced for $1 for 100 of them. So I was really excited. And if you just follow me on Instagram at the Provident Prepper, like when I was there, I totally took a picture and posted it. So you might want to do that if you're interested in those kind of little things. But I'm super excited because I decided we could stock a lot more tea lights for super inexpensive. Now, most tea lights are between 4 and 6 hours, and they're different. If you look at these two tea lights, can you see the difference in the size? And so this one is going to burn for a lot longer because it has like a third more wax. And so these from Walmart, they're the smaller ones. And I think we're gonna get about a 4-hour burn from them, which if you use that in your calculations, that's still a lot of burn time in this little package for $1. Now let's talk a little bit about how we store these tea lights.
As far as storage goes, we love to store them in these square 4-gallon buckets, and we can store a lot of tea lights in these. This particular bucket has 600 tea lights in it, labeled and marked. This one has 700 because these are a little bit thinner, so we could fit a few more in. But that's a lot of tea lights in these buckets.
And one of the cool things that we did, this one actually has been in storage for a few years. Now, if you click on the card in the corner, it will take you to a video that we created where we talked about using candles for lighting, heating, and cooking during an emergency.
Right.
And it's got fabulous details about the safety of candles, the BTUs they produce, all kinds of different things. Because in an emergency, what the last thing you want to be doing is hunting around and looking for things, right? So there's actually 2 butane lighters in here along with all of these candles. So when you take the lid off this bucket, which is labeled, you're all ready to go, right? This should provide an awful lot of them. And these are some of the new ones that I just bought. One of the things we did when we created that other video is we actually experimented with a round 5-gallon bucket. Now the square didn't fit really well in there. It just didn't. But what I did with that one is I put the squares in there, just packaged just like this, because when they're in the package, they just stay together better, right? But then I could put all kinds of different ones around the circle, and so that one held just a lot more. You can create the little kits too, where you're putting the candles inside of a shoebox with matches, and then that shoebox, you could just tuck it in the top of a closet. It doesn't have to be a big bucket, you know, it depends on what you're trying to prepare for. But there's another little thing that we created. Let's show them how we do the little heater.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, this little can, I think it was a peanut can or some kind of a nut can, but it's metal and it came with this lid, so it works really well. Now this is an emergency heater, and what I've done, this usually stays in our winter emergency kit in our car. The matches that I have, because a butane lighter is not gonna fit in here, so the matches I put in a plastic bag, but all of these tea light candles are in Ziploc bags, just little, I think these are the snack size Ziploc bags, so they can stay in here really nicely. And what I'll do is, and I'll show you this in just a second, but I'm going to put all of these little candles in the bottom. Now 7 fit really nicely, but there's something that you need to know about candles, because candles can flash. And then all of a sudden this whole thing is on fire, which it's contained, so that's really okay. But we want to try and prevent the wax from flashing. So what you would want to do before you light them is to stand the candle wick on end and then just trim it just a little bit. And I had already done this when I put them in this package. Whoops, I had trimmed all these so that they would be ready to go. And then we're just going to put the 7 in the bottom here and light them.
So now we have this little heater going, and it's putting out some pretty good heat. You can put your hands right above here, and they're still really getting going, but yeah, there's some heat here, and the sides will get too hot to even touch. So this is good. I mean, obviously this isn't the ideal,
right,
but it's certainly something that you could store easily, something that would be easy to use and would provide an inexpensive source of some heat and some light and possibly a little bit of cooking. We'll talk about that in a few minutes.
And think about this. So this can was free, right? Oh, ouch. It's just kind of recycled, right? And these candles, so if you get them for $1 when they're closing them out this time of year, wow, you've really saved a lot of money. One thing I would caution you against, though, is using the scented ones. When we first tried this and we're experimenting with it, I bought some scented ones because I didn't have any unscented ones, and the scent was just
got too strong,
overpowering. And so I would definitely stick with the unscented ones. But what a great, very inexpensive thing. And the fact that this will fit inside of our car emergency kit, if we break down someplace in the snow and we're inside that car trying to stay warm, oh, any kind of heat would just be so nice.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so now let's talk about cooking using the tea lights. You're just not going to be able to really heat things up and get a big rolling boil. There's just not the power underneath there. But when you look at this, as long as your pan is close to the tea light, to the flame, you'll get some really good heat. When we first started experimenting, ours was up a little bit too high, and it just didn't work. But all it takes is lowering it down a little bit. So the little thing that we've devised right here, this is just a cake pan, and I've lined it with aluminum foil because a lot of times the wax will spill, right? And you don't want to do that in your pan. It's hard to clean up. So the aluminum foil is just there for that purpose. And then this is just a cooling rack, and that holds the pan above it. It works really well because I still have plenty of oxygen getting down into the the candles, the tea lights. I had a viewer say that her mom does this in their oven. So what she'll do is she'll put the racks as close together as she can, and she puts like a cookie sheet in there with the tea lights on them, and she'll slide that in there, and then she said she cooks bacon and eggs on top of it. Now you can't close the oven door. Why? Because you're gonna have no oxygen, and they'll extinguish, right? Yeah. So you wanna leave the oven door open a little bit, but I haven't tried that, but that was pretty impressive that you could do that. So it's kind of nice and safe inside of the oven. What we're gonna do now is we have some Valley Food Storage emergency food. It's their bucket that we were able to give one of these away for our 100,000 celebration, so we're really excited. And this is some that we have left, but this is the Irish pub cheddar soup. Don't eat it. It's an oxygen absorber.
We'll get rid of that.
Very important, right? So I've just heated up the water in advance, and I'm just gonna stir this in. And these are the kinds of things that you want to do in an emergency, right? It doesn't have to be the expensive freeze-dried foods, but even if you're just opening a can of beans or a can of soup, this is a great way to heat it up. Oatmeal is something that doesn't take very long to cook and can work really well. So we're just going to put this on there, and let it finish. Not ideal, not as good as a butane heater or Dutch oven or something like this, but you can use candles indoors and you can be safe. As you know, there's an open flame, so you need to be careful.
Right.
But $1 for 100 of them, that's a fantastic
That's a screaming deal.
And even if you're paying $5, it's still a really good emergency preparedness tool. Overall, I'm actually a big fan of tea lights because it solves so many problems when it comes to emergency preparedness. If you're trying to prepare in an apartment where you don't have much space and you can't safely store fuel, you can store these inside, under a bed, inside of a closet. And we talked about how to put them in the buckets or in this little can or a shoe box. It's inexpensive and it will solve the problem, right? So you've got your cooking or you're warming up, and you've got your heat, and you've got a little bit of light. So this just might be a solution for a lot of our friends. If you click the card in the corner, it'll take you to a post that we have written on candles, and goes through and talks about all the safety aspects and everything that you need to know about storing these candles long term. And that's the other thing, they'll store forever and they don't have to be rotated.
Great solution. And good, Sue.
Hey, my turn while you talk.
All right. Now for the question of the day. What experience do you have using tea lights? Comment below. And thanks for being part of the solution.